Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for February 6th. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and with me today is Brent. How you doing, Brent?
I am doing great. This is the first one of these I've made all year long, and I'm excited to be here because I haven't slept a wink, and I am going solely on caffeine right now.
It's always the best way to go for an
I know,
update.
right? Yeah.
We are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Celebrity Big Brother 2 live feeds, and we've got a little bit of a packed update for you this morning, I think. There's, for what should have been a fairly simple set of nominations, things were a little crazy, a little stressed here, and were a lot more complicated than they probably should have been. And then we're gonna get lots of fallout as well. And honestly, I think there's a lot of funny stuff that happened yesterday. So
A lot of funny stuff, a lot of incredulous stuff, a lot of stuff.
Yes. So here we go. Let's start the day. As you know, Tom is the new HOH, and he is going to start the day. And we still didn't really know what Tom was planning. We know that Kandi and Dina want Natalie out, but Tom has always had this thing about Ricky. So who knows what's going to happen? First, we have Lolo and Ricky talking, and they're making a plan about what to do, how to approach Tom. And Lolo really wants to approach him and be like, "Hey, look, I just really want you to make amends for everything that you've done to us, and maybe by making amends you will not target us. That's the correct way to approach this, is get Tom to make amends."
Yes, because he was the one who broke up everything. He's the one who broke up their alliance. The Team Fun Alliance. He did that. He is the bad guy, and he needs to make amends. I will say that I understand a little bit where she's coming from, because, not that that's true, because it's not. However, he did sort of lay down and die a little bit last week, and he was saying things like, well, I'm sorry if I made you feel that way, and trying to do the human thing, to try to have some semblance of a social game. And so he said things that were in the vicinity of, "I'd like to make amends," and thus this is her idea of making amends. So why shouldn't he do it?
Yeah, there you go. Tom is going to talk with Kandi, who is going to serve to be a much better, duo member than Gato was. He's discussing his options here, what his plan is. He wants to target Ricky. Ricky stresses him out. He just really, and I really think the underlining thing here, and part of the psychology behind Tom and everything that he does today, is that if you remember, Tom feels like Ricky and Tamar, potentially Tamar, but at the very least Ricky, has manipulated the women into thinking that he's some kind of devil, misogynist, whatever, as we'll get to later in the day. And so, because he's still just, the reason he aligned with the women in the first place was not for any strategic benefit. He just liked them and respected them and wanted to get them to the end. And so he still likes them and respects them. And he feels like Ricky, who is the guy that called him a prick, is the reason they're being so cruel to him. He's somehow manipulating them into doing all of this stuff. He's definitely in for a rude awakening once he gets out of the house and finds out that no, it wasn't. I mean, Ricky is there, but
I mean, he is in for a rude awakening if he ends up on the jury. My God, I mean, this guy Ricky called him a prick, and you would think that is the ultimate sin when it comes to Tom Green. He has no flipping idea what they have been saying about him over here. Totally unprompted. Ricky isn't even in the room for half of this shit, and he is still the team evil bad guy as far as Nolo is concerned.
Yes, and so he wants Ricky to go, and he feels like he wants to keep Lolo safe. He's like, "Hey, I had a good conversation with her yesterday, the day before," which, as we talked about, they did have kind of a good conversation, and Lolo did seem like she was a little bit, taking in what Tom was saying, until she went and talked to Natalie, who was like, "You don't believe that, do you? He's the devil." And then she was like, "Right, he is the devil. You're totally right. I never believed him. What are you talking about?" And so Tom is thinking, "Oh, I feel like I've got some kind of connection with Lolo. I want to keep Lolo safe." And Tamar's like, "Okay," or sorry, Kandi's like, "Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm kind of on board with this." And he's like, "So my idea is, hear me out. I put Ricky and Lolo on the block because I want Lolo to stay and I want Ricky to go. And Kandi's like, wait, hold on. But what about Natalie? Because I feel like Natalie is the biggest threat. And Tom is like, I don't know. I want Ricky to go. And I don't know if would Tamar vote out Ricky over Natalie, or would she vote out Natalie? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, but she probably wouldn't vote out Lolo, right? So Ricky, Lolo. And then here's the thing. With Lolo on the block, nobody will suspect that we're secretly working together because I just put her up. And it's like, Tom, cart before the horse here.
This is so insane.
Many carts before the horse.
I will just tell you that I was one of the few people on Twitter who did not really have a problem with him putting Ricky up and making Ricky the target, or at least his intended target. I thought, you know what? It's not what I would do, but I can see it. And Ricky annoys the living you-know-what out of him, and he wants him gone. And there is some satisfaction to be taken in that, even if it isn't the absolute optimal move on the game board. And so I wasn't against it. Then you have Kandi come in. This is the first conversation with Kandi that Tom's going to have. And she's trying to talk to him, and he's not really hearing her. But you can tell, like, it was almost like she was planting seeds for later on, where, like, she needed to have him, like digest it a little bit. And then later on, he would become a little bit more receptive to what she's saying, and to the point where he was actually enjoying what she was saying and was getting into the spirit of the game a little bit more. Like, why do I have to tell them my plans? Why do I have to tell them the truth? I mean, Kandi is everything we need in this Big Brother season. Thank God. I hear you in the chat room. You need 10 minutes of me standing Kandi. I can provide it, believe me.
Yeah, I think part of the problem in this first conversation is that there was actually a bit of a misunderstanding where the way that Tom speaks can be hard to follow sometimes because he's kind of all over the place. And so Kandi comes out of this conversation thinking, I think that Tom is planning on backdooring Ricky, or he's trying to backdoor somebody because he talks about the veto being used, and so she doesn't really know how to counter it because she doesn't quite understand it, and she's going to relay that misunderstanding to Tamar, and it doesn't ultimately go anywhere. But I think that's why Kandi was not able to really do much in this particular conversation. That's
certainly true. I was listening because I wasn't sure what she thought, but I heard what I thought I heard, and then I watched her go to Tamar and relate that. I'm like, oh, well, she evidently thinks that he's going to try to backdoor Ricky when I mean, I heard what he said at the end, but I can see how she thinks that, but I don't think that's what he's intending to do at the present time.
Yes. And to your point as well, I actually do think that targeting Ricky is Tom's best move, but not for the reasons he thinks. Because basically, you've got Natalie, who we'll talk about. Natalie is super anti-Kandi. Natalie would potentially target Kandi before she targeted Tom, whereas Ricky would definitely target Tom before Kandi, which is why it's in Kandi's best interest to make sure Natalie leaves, while it's in Tom's best interest to make sure that Ricky leaves. But Tom doesn't want Ricky to leave because he thinks that Ricky is the only one that will target him. Tom wants Ricky to leave because he's annoyed by Ricky. Ricky makes him feel uncomfortable, and that he thinks he can work with Lolo and all of this crazy nonsense. And his way of going about it is all wrong and bad. So Kandi is eventually going to be able to convince him with correct logic that if you want this is the way to go about it. But I do agree. I actually think that getting Ricky out is the better move for Tom, despite the fact that his reasoning is really out there and bad.
Yeah, by the way, in the conversation that he's going to have in a little bit with Ricky, and I think maybe even Natalie at some point during the day, contend that if Kato had won the veto a few nights ago and they placed Kandi up on the block next to Tom, that they would have voted out Kandi. That sounds like a lie to me. But on the other hand, I was gone for about a week, or for about a day and a half last week. So I'm just like, well, maybe I missed a conversation in there. That is a lie, right, Taryn? They would have voted out Tom next to Kandi, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's bullshit coming from both of them. That's what I thought. Okay.
So another part of this conversation with Kandi is that Tom wants to make a deal with Tamar. He's like, well, look, I learned from my time as HOH last week. I need to be making deals. I need to be, trying to get something out of this HOH. So what I want to do is get Tamar and be like, hey, I'm not putting you on the block. Will you not put me on the block if you win HOH next week? But he's like, but I don't want it to come off as threatening. So, Kandi, I need you to help me here.
He's really taken aback by that. I mean, he's a celebrity. He has an image. He knows this is out there. I mean, CBS has done a pretty good job of actually protecting Natalie and Lolo and a little bit Tamar from themselves by, they haven't aired much of this stuff of what they've been, of the really crude, nasty stuff they've been saying about Tom. But he knows it because he's heard it from them. And so it's really playing on him. I actually think that having someone in his corner like Kandi is really beneficial for him, so that he feels like, I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the bad guy. I'm making a game move here, and these are all game related moves, and I feel much better about that. So yes, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and because Kandi is not only like the smartest person in the house, like the most reasonable person, but she also has a relationship with Tamar. So he feels like, hey, Kandi, like maybe you can help me with this. I just like, if you could approach Tamar with this idea that maybe she won't put me on the block if I don't put her on the block. Just like, I don't want it to be threatening. Fully positive, make it as positive as possible. Like we're making a deal, like we're working together, not a threat, not a threat.
Yeah. Well, he's got a little bit of a problem, though, because Tamar is, meanwhile, downstairs telling Lolo and Natalie that she ain't going to kiss his ass just because his HOH. Like Tom told everybody he needs a one-on-one. And so Tamar proceeds to tell anybody who will listen that she isn't going to go up there and talk to him, that she doesn't need to talk to him. She ain't going to kiss his butt because he's the HOH. That's not what she's doing. If it's her time to go, it's her time to go. That's what she said. 5 minutes later, she's upstairs. Tom makes a deal with her and says, hey, if I don't put you up, you won't put me up. Okay, Tom, that sounds good.
We'll get to that. Yeah, parent-teacher conference, everyone. Get ready for your parent-teacher conference. So she's not really having that. Kandi will go to Tamar after her conversation with Tom, but she's not able to really talk to her because Tamar is pissed.
Pissed, I tell you.
Whoa, wait, why is Tamar pissed? Hold on, let's get to the bottom of this. Tamar is pissed because Kandi had the gall to talk to Tom.
I'm clutching my pearls, Taryn. What is this? She has the gall to talk to Tom. I think actually, you know what it is? I feel like Tamar feels like an idiot for keeping Kandi. I feel like that's really where this conversation is coming from.
She certainly has said as much.
Yeah, I know, but like all the stuff that they told her about Kandi is coming true. Like she's like, I heard you on the last update. She's like, well, if you guys would have told me that she was going to go over there and play both sides, or if she was playing with Tom, then I would have voted her out. They told you that. What are you talking about? You're a fool. Like, I mean, does she not remember? I love Tamar, but this one's drive people crazy in the house listening to her because they're like, honey, we had this conversation. She's playing both sides and she's expendable to us. And the worst part about that is Kandi knows that she is expendable to the threesome / foursome, those people in that bedroom, basically.
Yeah, and like I've seen a large amount of people who think that Tamar is faking all of this, that she's pretending to be mad. I really genuinely don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Any point to her having a one-on-one private conversation with Kandi where she berates her for doing this if she's not actually mad.
I agree. Doom in the chat, one of the few times I disagree with you this season, Doom in the chat saying it's an act. Girl, bye. It is not an act. Tamar's not that good of an actress. Well, I take that back. She's a good actress because, she did okay with the power, even though they all kind of knew she had the power by the end of it. But nevertheless, she's not who's she acting to? Jesus? Come on. Yeah. It's just the two of them.
If she's putting on an act, then she's going to be like, Kandi, we're cool. Like, why would she actually yell at Kandi?
Right? Oh God, stop, Doom. Stop. You sound crazy.
I think what's happening is that I think that Tamar feels like Kandi is the person that's going to bring her to the end. Kandi is the person, like, she doesn't have a person in the Natalie, Lolo, Ricky alliance. She knows that they're all taking each other. She needs somebody who is hers, and Kandi is hers. She has Kandi. And so what she's mad about is the fact that Natalie, Lolo, and Ricky keep telling her Kandi will win in the end. And she's like, no, No, why would she win in the end? That doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't win in the end. She's mad because like that's her person to get to the end with. And then not only that, but they're also right about the fact that Kandi is playing the game. And she's mad that Kandi is playing her own game and not Tamar's game. She's like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be mine.
Yes, well, a week ago, I think she was correct that she wasn't playing the game. I mean, let's be real. It's only been 48 hours since Kandi woke up and smelled the coffee, and all of Twitter has been standing her. I mean, like, the look at her a week ago, and she literally didn't care. I mean, I'm trying to remember the first update where you really started to get the vibe that I'm kind of liking Kandi and she's like the smartest person in the house. I mean, I feel like it was maybe 4 updates ago, but it hasn't been that long because up until then she was basically furniture, and we know we don't care for furniture.
Yeah, I felt so happy that yesterday morning in the update, I was like, guys, I'm all in. I'm a full Kandi stan. I'm all about it. And then right after, she like totally proves. I was like, yes, right in time.
Right.
Just hopped on that train right before it was about to take off.
No seats available. We're full.
Tamar is mad at Kandi. You're supposed to be lying. You're making me look bad. Natalie and Lolo are gonna be so mad at me because you talked to Tom. This is not okay. So Kandi does not get a chance to talk to Tamar about the plans yet.
She walked out.
Yes.
Yeah. Tamar just said, "Girl, bye."
Now, Tamar, over the course of the day, is going to continue to complain about Kandi to Natalie, Lolo, and Ricky, and how she's talking to Tom. She can't believe how terrible and selfish Kandi is. She's going to go to Dina after this conversation, complain to Dina about how terrible and selfish and what a bad person Kandi is. So Dina knows about it. She's basically told everyone in the house except for Tom.
Except for Tom, and I love how she put it where the funniest thing she said all day, aside from saying that I'm not going to go talk to Tom and kiss his butt when he's HOH, and then 5 minutes later did it, is when she said, I thought that Kandi was down for the cause. As in if we're in church or something. The cause.
Yeah.
As if Tom is team evil. What the hell?
He's the devil.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
So Tom is going to have the first of his one-on-ones, and this one was actually maybe my favorite in terms of humor value here. Okay, so you have to understand the way that Tom approaches these one-on-ones is very funny to begin with, and the way that Tom approaches most conversations is pretty funny. First, in every conversation, he's like, look, I just want, can we agree that we will keep this confidential between the two of us and we will not tell anyone? And they're like, of course, we're going to keep it confidential. The first thing every single person does after they leave the room is that they tell everyone about the conversation. But he makes sure multiple times in the we're going to keep this confidential, right? Oh, yes, absolutely. Another thing is that he operates on like a list. He's like, okay, so the first thing I want to tell you is this. But his lists are not well-organized lists. They're just like totally haphazard. And so he starts with one thing. He's like, oh, I forgot though. This is supposed to come before that part. So here's what should be going here. And it's just, it's very confusing. It's very difficult for people to follow. But the Ricky one in particular is my favorite because basically what happens is Ricky comes into the room. We're going to keep this confidential, right? Totally, right. 100%. Yes. Okay, Ricky, I have a proposal for you. My proposal is you go on the block, you try really hard to win the veto. If you win the veto, you take yourself off. Boom, what do you think? Ricky's like, okay, yeah, I like your proposal. I like
That's
it. It's
one way to go.
It's a good proposal. I see what you're saying. I have a proposal of my own, actually. My proposal is you don't put me on the block and you put other people on the block and then like we work together. And Tom is like, oh, yeah, I like that proposal too. That's a good proposal. Good proposal. I kind of like my proposal better where I put you on the block, but why don't we think on this and get back to each other? End of meeting. That's basically what it was. There was a little bit more. Ricky essentially proposing like, hey, let's work together. If you work with the three of us, then we'll win the competitions. We'll get to the Final Four. Everything will be great. It's not in our benefit to betray you. It's going to work out. But really what it came down to was two proposals where Tom was like, you should go on the block. And Ricky's like, what if I don't go on the block? And they both said what great proposals they were.
Well, great proposals. Yeah, they're like basically identical. I mean, I can hardly tell the difference there.
It was great. I loved this conversation. And
My
Ricky,
favorite is Lolo, mainly because of what happens after it.
yes,
But
that was a great one too. Ricky comes away from this conversation thinking like, that was a good conversation. We made some good proposals. I feel like mine was pretty strong. I don't know. I feel like you might choose mine.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, Kandi is finally going to have her conversation with Tamar. Where she explains everything to Tamar about, like, you know, like, look, I don't owe Natalie, Lolo, and Ricky anything. They did not save me. You saved me. She's like, no, they saved you. They voted to keep me. No. You saved me. They were not going to save me unless you saved me. And I do not owe them anything. I'm at the bottom of their totem pole. What? You don't expect me to just go talk to Tom? Like, of course I'm going to talk to Tom. And Kandi and Tamar is like, yeah. Like, she very reluctantly is like, I cannot find fault with anything that you're saying.
Yeah, it made so much flippant sense. She couldn't even like find an illogical reason to disagree with it. She was like, yeah. And Kandi, of course, is the queen of self-awareness, so she knows that she's expendable to these people. Tamar realizes that Kandi knows she's expendable, so she really can't be mad that Kandi is just talking with Tom. You know, and then the other thing Kandi said was like, you know, y'all have problems with Tom. I never had a disagreement with Tom. Why do I have to be mad at Tom just because y'all are mad at Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she points out that, you know, they could have taken him out if they wanted to. They chose not to. He beat them fair and square in the HOH comp. That's on them. He beat him fair and square. Shake his hand. What are you going to do? I mean, like, and Tamar was like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yes, so Kandi is finally going to get around to proposing Tom's deal with Tamar. So Tom wants to offer you a deal. He doesn't want you to think that he's threatening you. He just wants to let you know that if you keep him safe next week, he will keep you safe this week. And Tamar's like, hell no. I'm not keeping him safe. I got to go after him. He's going to win this game. He's my target.
And she does, to her credit, she does say that he'll win the game because I think, well, I can't remember if this is here, but she said that people like him or he's well liked or, you know, he's so smart, he'll win. So it was shading him in a positive way, whereas, you know, you look at like Lolo and Natalie over there shading him in the worst negative way possible, you know. So at least she doesn't step in that too much.
Yeah, I think she knows her audience here, and I think she also knows her audience when she's with Natalie and Lolo.
So you're right.
So she says no. Kandi says, okay, well, I think that Tom's plan here is to target Ricky. She's talking about, again, she currently thinks it's a backdoor plan to target Ricky. Tamar's like, that's so stupid. Why does he like the back door so much? Why is everyone all about the back door? She said she should target Natalie. She's the bigger threat and not do any of this stupid 1985 backdoor nonsense.
Where did that come from?
I don't know what that reference was.
I'm trying to figure out that reference. Like, does she mean Back to the Future? Back to the Future came out in 1985. I think that was what she was talking about.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's what it was.
I just had to include it because I was just like, I found it so funny.
And then I was thinking, like, maybe she meant 1984, like the book.
That's what I thought she might be going for. But even if it is 19, like, it's still not a back door. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. Crazy plans. I don't know. She got it all wrong at this point.
Yeah. So anyway, back up in the HOH room, Tom is going to have his one-on-one conversation with Natalie. We're going to keep this confidential, right? Oh, yes, of course. He says to Natalie, okay, I have a proposal for you. I'm not going to put you on the block, but if the veto is used, I will have to put you on the block. But even if you do go on the block, you're not going to be voted out. You're not the target. And Natalie's like, cool. So I assume you don't want me to use the veto if I win? And he's like, yes, that would be great. Yeah, don't use the veto if you win. That would be great.
That's a lie. Okay, yes. And then the other thing she said was, oh, yeah, and thank you, Tom. And so next week when, you know, I win HOH, I want your input on what I should do. It's just so flippin' condescending, especially when you know that she's lying through her teeth to this guy. Like, I mean, and not that Tom played this perfect. If I was him, I wouldn't have told her anything about a replacement nominee or that I would have to put her up. I mean, that hasn't happened yet. Why are you talking about that? He always does this. He did it during his HOH too, where he wanted to backdoor Ricky and he approached them before the veto was even decided. So terrible on him for doing that. but it's not going to matter in the end because she's going to go on the block.
Tom is a word vomiter. He says everything that he feels.
Yes.
And I'm gonna get to that a little bit when he talks with Lolo in particular. But I think it makes him come off less genuine that he says everything he feels, like, because it doesn't seem like he's feeling it. It seems like he's listing off things about, like, oh yeah, and I feel this way, and it's very strange. And there's a very good example with Lolo that I'll talk about. But he also makes sure to tell Natalie, hey, if I don't put you up, will you not put me up next week? The same deal he wants to offer Tamar, and Natalie's like, yeah, of course, we're good.
Yep.
So then Tamar comes up,
and that's how they left things.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned. Yes.
Tamar, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you a question. Wasn't there a point later on in the day where Natalie could have talked to Tom?
Yes.
Just after his mind had switched, and she could have switched it back.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Tom is going to talk to Tamar now, and hey, we're going to keep everything confidential, right? Oh yes, of course. And he says that he wants to offer her a deal of safety. That if she keeps him safe next week, he will keep her safe this week, so on and so forth. And she does say, that's a fair deal. That's fair. And then she does kind of sidestep the question, where she then goes off about, like, well, you know what about the thing that happened before is, and then she goes off into a thing, and then Tom is later like, and if we make this deal, which I think that we are, right? Like, then here's what's gonna go. She never actually accepts the deal straight up, and she's very proud about this.
I like it for a couple reasons. Number one, she's not lying straight to his face, so if he goes home and watches it, he can't be mad about it. Number two, it's good gameplay, because you don't want to make this guy mad. He's the HOH. He could change his nominations if he wants to. He actually does later on. And I feel like that she has a case here. I'm not big on the whole, well, there's a loophole in the plan kind of thing that I didn't agree to, but I really do think that she did not give. I think two things happened. Number one, she didn't give him what he wanted. But number two, he's so nervous talking to her about the whole threatening thing that he didn't want to say too much. And because of that, she was able to dodge effectively.
Yes, and I think that this is how you play Celebrity Big Brother or Big Brother 2 or 3, where you have to be able to at least be like, hey, I had to play the game. I knew you'd watch back later. I didn't want to outright lie, so I had to maneuver my way around it. Right. And so I do think we should give her some props here. And so that's she definitely gave him the impression that she was agreeing to the deal. Like, he came away from that conversation thinking she accepted the deal. So it's not a perfect method, and it could still definitely piss people off, especially if they feel like you're trying to use, like, the fine print to get out of a thing. So it's not exactly always going to work well for you, but I think the attempt is still maybe more effective. Hey. But you know, it could also be that somebody that just is open about the fact that they're lying might be more respectable as well. It's sometimes hard to tell.
Yeah, and no offense, but she could actually still end up on the block this week. I mean, if the one of the trio that's not on the block wins the veto and uses it, then her butt's going to go up, and then she doesn't even have to worry about this deal. So it may not even matter in the end. Yeah,
Tom also wants to like, hey, you know, if I keep you say, will you vote the way that I want you to vote this week? And she's like, well, yeah. I mean,
who do you want me to vote for, Tom?
Who are you leaning towards? And he's like, not sure yet. And she's like, nah, not sure yet, huh? Yeah, well, I mean, would love if you knew who you were thinking of, and then I could, you know, tell you what I was thinking.
Yeah, that was like Lolo later on in the day when she's like, could you repeat the plan again? Basically, so I can tell everybody what the plan is.
Tamar was really holding her tongue here. She was very clearly annoyed with Tom, trying to, like, you want me to promise to vote whoever you want? I don't even know who you want. So yeah, that's how their conversation went. Then Tom is going to talk with Lolo. We're going to keep everything confidential, right? Oh, yes, of course. And Lolo, before Tom can even really start, Lolo is going to interrupt. Hey, well, hold on, Tom. I just feel like you need to make amends to me because, and she goes into the whole spiel that we know already. She's told it 1,000 times about how, you know, he betrayed her and they were going to stick to the alliance, but Tom is the devil and he did all these things. And so she feels like Tom should make amends and not target them. And that's her spiel. And Tom is like, okay, Okay. I have one proposal, though, which is that I put you on the block. But you aren't the target. You aren't the target. And then, I will make sure that you have the votes to stay. And then next week, we can work together and we can work with Kandi and Dina. And nobody will expect that we're working together because I just put you on the block, and it'd be great. And and I just like, by the way, the reason that I want to keep you safe is because I like you and I feel a connection to you, and that's what I mean about like, she does not feel that Tom likes her. That is a bullet point on his list that he forgot to get to. That is like, oh, by the way, the reason I'm doing this is because I feel this connection with you, and I think that we had a really good, like, he word vomits everything he feels. He does not show how he feels, and I think that's, not to give any sort of excuse for the behavior of the people who are so anti-Tom, but I think to anyone that doesn't trust Tom or that finds it difficult to trust Tom, I think you can understand why, because it's so hard to really read how he actually feels when he just kind of lists out his feelings.
Yeah, he seems shifty. He doesn't seem genuine, and I think he is genuine.
I think he's the most genuine person in the house.
Yes, exactly. But they don't know that because they don't know Tom Green, and they don't get to see all of his little quirks. I mean, maybe they're getting to know it. Maybe they have an idea of it. But I think even at this point, in such a compressed season, it's especially hard for someone like him, who you really kind of need to get to know their sense of humor. I have a friend of mine who has become one of my best friends in life, and I will tell you that the first week that I spent with this guy, I was like, why are we hanging out with this guy? Like I absolutely could not stand him because I didn't understand his sense of humor. And then fast forward 6 years later, and I'm like best friends with him. So I understand where they're coming from in terms of not being able to read a guy and thus not being able to trust him or really get along with him because he doesn't seem genuine.
Yes. Although I will say later in this conversation, it does get emotional. It does get a bit genuine.
Tear to my eye. Yeah. Tear to my eye, tear.
So Lolo's like, I don't really want to go on the block. Why don't you put Kandi and Dina on the block? I feel like that would be a much better plan. And Tom is like, but no. We want to work with them. If you stay, if we keep you, then we should work. It should be us four to the end. And Lolo's like, why would I want to do that? And it's funny, again, watching these two people kind of like slowly come to the sort of replacement level understanding of how the game works, where Lolo's like, but if we work with them, then they're gonna beat us in the end because they don't have any blood on our hands and they're so likable, and so we can't beat them in the end. And Tom is like, but they're bad at competitions, so if we take them to the end, it's more likely we get to the final two because we can more easily beat them in competitions. And they're like, wow, man, what a conundrum. It's like, yes, this is the basic strategy for Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was the one thing that she was not lying to Tom about, in that they will win. Kandi and Dina, they are massive threats to win the game, and I really don't even think Tom would win against them, although he would have a fighting chance, certainly more of a chance than the other four have. But Dina and Kandi are jury threats, and they should be taken seriously.
Yes. And so, and Lolo's saying, like, everybody hates me, Tom. Like, I've got into arguments with everyone. Like,
not a lie.
I'm
Where's
not
the
going
lie?
to be able to win. And this is a moment where I'm feeling like this is Lolo being self-aware to some extent. It is self-deprecating to some extent. And it turns into this sweet moment where Tom is like, no, listen, like, I would vote for you. Like I don't like to talk about money, but like Kandi and Dina, they're very successful. They're well off. I know that you need this. Like, you don't even have health insurance right now or whatever it is. And like, I know that you need this to train for the Olympics because that's your dream. And I want to support that. I would definitely vote for you in the end.
And he would.
Yes.
And he would. He is being honest when he says this to her.
And Lolo is like finding it very difficult to accept. Like, Lolo and vulnerability are two things that do not go well together. And so Lolo, like, are you really, like, are you being real with me right now, Tom? And he's like, of course, Lolo. Like, I would, of course. And she's like, she starts crying. Like, she's like, she can't believe like the kindness that's being shown to her when she feels like everyone hates her. And she obviously, he has no reason to show her any kindness given how she's treated him. But she's still receiving kindness from him. And that's a really powerful moment to be able to show somebody kindness who's been treating you very poorly.
So powerful. I'm sure this had a massive effect on her for the rest of the day. And it was the beginning of them rebuilding their relationship.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
I'm totally freaking lying. She went back to being the same old Lolo. Like people, this is crazy. So they have this conversation. Okay. Oh, I know. Actually, I don't want to get ahead. So go ahead and finish Sharon. So
Well, that's basically.
I want to. I
Yeah.
want to jump to the part where she starts relating this converation to.
We can skip over the Dina thing, so we can go straight to the conclusion of this, or at least the semi-conclusion of this. Lolo does leave, and she's still kind of in tears, and so she goes and she talks to Natalie and Ricky about it, and she tells them what Tom told her about, well, he's gonna put me on the block and I'm the pawn, and so. This is finally what makes it click in Natalie and Ricky's heads, who both were under the assumption that they were fine this week. They did not get from Tom's conversation that they were all going to be in trouble. They were like, oh, he's targeting us. One of us is going to leave. Whoa, not cool. We don't like that. And so they start their Tom bashing, and Lolo's like, yeah, I can't believe he used my Olympic dreams to manipulate me like that. He's such a terrible person.
It was just laughable. They had this genuine conversation, and as I previously said, it is hard to trust Tom because he's a word vomiter, and he doesn't have a lot of feeling. It's like that whole phrase, do it with feeling. Well, Tom Green can't. He doesn't know how to do it with feeling, so he just says it, and then they have what was a moment that I thought had some effect on her, and I really did think that at least for a couple hours, she'll start to see Tom Green as a person. Not as a devil or a dirty grease slime ball or a bad comedian, which is, I think, the worst thing that they called him all day long. Like, they just went in and just lampooned this guy and just turn him into a total caricature of a villain rather than who he is, which is a pretty genuine guy. And that is the most terrible. And the part that, by the way, I don't mean to jump over to Natalie real quick because we're talking about Lolo, but I gave Natalie an 8 in the LFC Stock Watch last week. I can tell you she's going to drop like a freaking rock. I mean, I really thought that Lolo had this locked in terms of being the final 2 jury goat. I don't feel that way anymore. Natalie has caught up with her. Yeah. Like, I can't even believe how hard it is to catch up to someone as vicious as Lolo, and yet Natalie has done it. She has done it where she has just burning all over her bridges in terms of a final 2 vote. I mean, you can defend Natalie's game. I like Natalie. I think she's positioned herself relatively well, and you can defend all this. So there are a lot of people out there who like Natalie and they're standing her. You cannot defend this. She knows that they're seeing it at home, and she still acts like this. You can say maybe Lolo had an effect on her. Well, maybe she did, but it is her responsibility not to say stuff like this. I mean, it's just gratuitous stuff. They're just bashing each other. It's like, I remember listening to the live feed update yesterday where you talked about how it is on a normal season a really terrible team building exercise where, like, Big Brother 15, where they all sat around and bashed Alyssa, bash. They just did it over and over, and we all hated it. But the reason they did it is because they're trying to get an us versus them mentality going, which helps keeps an alliance together. And but here there's no purpose, and so they're gonna pay for it in the end. Neither one of these girls can win unless they're against the other, and I'm gonna guess that at the end of this week one of them will be evicted.
Yeah, I mean, especially after this conversation with Tom, I was on Twitch and I was like, hey, God, I really am starting to feel like Lolo might be able to beat Natalie in the end. Like, I feel like that's possible. And part of that is that I think that, Lolo, at the very least, she recognizes that people hate her, and she is upfront about when she hates somebody else. And there's just something a little bit more genuine about Lolo's viciousness than Natalie, who is a lot more like behind your back and doesn't really see that people don't like her, and is just like you know what I mean? Like, there's just something there where it's almost like with Lolo, it's like Lolo, she can barely help herself. Natalie should probably know better. right? Like that's
It's a little bit like it's a little bit like Josh from
Yes.
19, where like Lolo is the Josh in the situation, and she like they're giving her a little bit. Maybe they'll give her like, remember Josh wouldn't have won against anybody except for Paul. But you know they looked at his behavior and they still voted for him. At least 5 people did anyway, because they were able to be like, well, that's just sort of Josh. And Cody even said, you know, hey, at least he stabbed me in the front. The other one stabbed me in the back. So Lolo is somebody who wears her heart on her sleeve, and that might be able to win over Natalie. And I love Rob in the chat. He's like, so you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. Well,
yes, Rob, that's what we're saying.
Here's the thing, though. Then Lolo goes on and starts calling Tom the devil, and we don't mean in like just like calling him the devil. We mean like she's very religious and is like making religious allegory comparisons.
I forgot to mention this. I'm sorry. So at the beginning of the day, they're getting ready. Tom wants to have one-on-ones. They decide to pray. Lolo decides to pray to God himself for the power to go to Tom and have her words have the effect that she wants them to have, i.e. her lies. I really don't think that our savior is on board for that, girl. I think that's a bad call.
Yeah, well, so I'm thinking like after this conversation with Tom, like Lolo, she might have a shot, and then she just goes, and it's I feel like I'm watching an extreme version of like when Caitlyn and Rockstar were competing to be evicted on Big Brother 20, where like Natalie and Lolo are just like constantly pushing forward, back and forth, like who can be worse, who could lose the jury vote first, and it's just like oh Natalie takes the lead for a second, oh no Lolo pulls back in the lead, oh no Lolo's back in front.
I kind of want to see it in a weird way. Like I'm kind of hoping Natalie wins the veto and then Ricky is evicted, and then there's, you know, maybe they could still get to the end, because I would like to see this where they're just 2 horrible final 2 contestants at the end, and you gotta vote for one of them, you know.
There's truly shades of June and Allison if that happens.
June Allison was sorry.
Yeah. Especially because
dated reference. Never mind.
Especially because those jury members got to watch the tapes after they cast their votes. They
yeah,
were
that's true.
So mad.
Yeah. So mad. So mad.
So anyway, Tom is gonna talk with Dina. And Tom tells Dina his plan that, okay, I've talked to Lolo. I want to put Ricky and Lolo on the block. Ricky's my target. And Dina's like, why is Ricky your target? Natalie should be your target. Natalie's the bigger threat. And Tom's like, no, but Ricky. Ricky is more annoying. I need to get Ricky. I want to keep Lolo safe. I feel like we can work with Natalie moving forward. And Dina's like, what? You think you can work with Lolo?
Yeah, this is like the worst part. Yeah. Tom, this is your worst moment all day. Go ahead. Sorry.
Tom's like, yeah. I think I've already flipped Lolo. I think she's already on our side, so we're good. And Dina's just like, no, you're not. No. Dina's
speaking straight up facts to Tom Green. Like, she is not on your side. She will betray you. She betrayed Jonathan before. I love how Dina always brings that up. She's always got that on the tip of her tongue. Like, they betrayed Jonathan, so you know they're going to betray you.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's sort of become like a meme at this point, but I genuinely feel like Dina is the second best player in the house.
She's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't get into any fights with people. I don't know if she can necessarily win a comp, and you're probably going to have to win a comp there at the end, especially if they do it again, like where it's a final 4 and then they have a final HOH competition. I mean, she's in a land of horribles. She's one of the least horrible people. She doesn't do a whole lot. She doesn't game a lot, but she keeps to herself. She's kind to people, and she has a better than average sense of strategy amongst the crew of terrible people.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are doing the fun thing of like Dina Giesling, but she's a lot more she's a lot more Danielle. So maybe you call it Danielle Lohan is more like it because she in this conversation she's like, yeah, I'm just keeping my mouth shut, my eyes open.
Yeah,
she's
and
like
she does lie too.
Her.
Yeah, I have seen her lie where she like doesn't she goes to other people and doesn't tell them what she just talked about with somebody else. Or she keeps it to herself. So she's playing the game, folks. I mean, she doesn't play it necessarily as much as we want. On the other hand, given how much other people are playing and how badly they're playing, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, and like she understands where the pieces lie in the house, and she is a bit of like that sort of ditzy person, but she also knows how to play that ditzy person. And so anytime that she talks to anybody, she's just like, oh yeah, you're totally right. I'm totally going to do that. I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm totally like on board. But she's not. She's like, actually does have her own agenda, and people are definitely is a bit ignorant of that, or at least some people are ignorant of that.
Some people are, yeah. They're starting to catch on to it. They think that she actually might know what she's doing and that she is playing dumb a little bit. But I mean, like, she's number 4 or 5 in terms of anybody's target right now, so she's not going anywhere.
And that's the thing. Even if you think that she might be threatening, and that's the great thing about being this archetype or this character on the show, is that there's always a bigger target than you, and that's really going to be the case all the way into the. I fully expect Dina to be in the wherever they cut off.
I 100% agree.
Yes. So he finishes the conversation with Dina. She correctly points out it's dumb, but he does not listen to her. Natalie is going to talk with Tamar after she finds out that she's going to be, or that they're being targeted. The Natalie, Lolo, Ricky contingent.
Yeah. Natalie doesn't know that she's being nominated yet, which is the fun part. Yeah.
Yes, she correctly is not being nominated yet. So
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're not there yet. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she is talking with Tamar, and now she's like, "Oh, Tamar, Lolo and Ricky are going to go up on the block, but if the veto is used, I'm screwed." So she's like, I need to make sure that they do not win the veto, so I don't go up on the block and get voted out. And she's super pissed at Kandi. She feels like this is all coming from Kandi. That Kandi is the reason. Tamar, you should never have kept Kandi. And this is what I think Tamar is like so mad. She's like, stop. No, it's not my fault.
Tamar's tired of being. She's my little nephew and niece. She's tired of being blamed for the other person. It's your problem. You deal with it.
That's what she should say, but instead she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Sorry. If I would have known, I mean, if you'd have just told me.
Yeah. But she feels like Kandi is the biggest threat, and she wants to target Kandi next. And this is why I'm saying it's imperative for Kandi to get Natalie out, but Natalie's actually probably the last person that Tom should be getting out, considering that she's probably the only one of the three of them that wouldn't potentially target him first if she won the HOH. But that's neither here nor there, because we're not about Tom's strategic moves. We could never trust him to make a strategic move. We're all about Kandi now.
We're all about Kandi, yes.
So Tamar lets Natalie know that Tom tried to get her to promise him safety next week, and she's proudly like, I didn't agree. I sidestepped the question. And Natalie's like, oh yeah? He proposed the same thing to me. I promised him. Duh. Play the game, girl.
Right, get on board. Let's play.
And Tamar is just mad. Kandi and Dina don't even deserve to still be here. I'm mad that they're even here right now.
Well, I mean, I this is the part in time where I think that she's playing it up a little bit. Like, I really don't think that she feels that way. I still think that in the back of her mind, she thinks that she could beat maybe either Kandi or Dina, or maybe both of them. I think she's a little stubborn to believe what they're trying to tell her, which is actually kind of true. And I think that she's just had it up to here in terms of being blamed. So overall, I think that the one thing about her is Tamar is that I do think that she's been playing a pretty good game of late. And I ranted on Rob's show a couple nights ago that I thought she made a terrible decision and it was probably game ending for her. Well, she got lucky because Tom is going to rectify her mistake and it's going to be a little bit more even now. And I really don't think she's going to be, she's not on anybody's hit list for the double eviction. So that's good for her. But, as long as she doesn't talk as much trash as everybody else, I think that Tamar will be a viable final 2 person, but not necessarily anybody's favorite.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you were right to rant about the HOH winning. That was terrible. Also right that I think Tom winning really sort of saved her from that mistake. But I do feel like Tamar's biggest problem is still jury, because I feel like Tamar can only beat Natalie, Ricky, and Lolo, but they all want to take each other. So it's great that Tom won and he's going to break them up a little bit, but she still needs to get in, she still needs to take one of them out, another one of them out, so that there's one left and that person can take her. And she also needs to recognize that she should not be taking Kandi, which I think that she wants to do. It's still, I think, a tough road for her to get to the end and win, but that road has been opened. I think Tom winning was crucial, and now she needs a little bit more help. I think either by winning but even if she wins, she's not going to take a shot at Ricky and Lolo. But basically, she needs one of the Zen Angry cults, which is their new name, to still be in the game at the final four, and then she's got a 50% chance that one of them wins and that they take her, because they know that they can't take the Kandi, Dina, or Tom, and so they would take Tamar, and Tamar would probably beat them. That's her best option, but she currently plans on targeting Tom first, which wouldn't be the best thing.
Wouldn't be the best thing. No, so they're at final 7 right now. One of the 3 is almost certainly going to go home, and then they're going to be down to final 6. There's 2 of the people left in the 3 of No Licky are still going to be here at final 6, and they usually do they did last season a final HOH at final 4. So she has 2 evictions to hope that one of No Licky goes home again at either final 6 or final 5, because in that case, there'll only be 1 left of No Licky. They'll be forced to take Tamar to the end, and then she could triumph as we all want her to.
Yes, that's the goal. She's not working toward that goal, but it might just happen for her. She's kind of in that position where like things do just kind of work out for Tampa. There's always one person on the season where things just kind of play out for them. I mean, kind of like she's kind of in that Josh spot. And so like she got the power. She got Tom to win this HOH. Like, don't count her out. She's got the luck
shouldn't work
factor
out for her, but it's probably gonna.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see. She needs one of them. So like I said, one of them's gonna go home this week. One of No Licky. She needs a second one to go home either at final 6 or final 5. If that happens, I think she's golden.
Yeah. So we're going to get Kandi talking to Tom, the final person to have their one-on-one with Tom. And Tom lets Kandi know about the plan. Lolo on the block, Ricky the target. That's my plan. And this whole time I was watching on Twitch. I've been screaming at Tom, like, what are you talking about? You have not flipped Lolo. Your plan does not even make any sense, because if you're trying to target Ricky and keep Lolo safe, then you're putting Lolo on the block makes no sense, because if Natalie wins the veto, she can use it on Ricky, and then you're forced to evict Lolo. And nobody has said anything about this until finally Kandi gets in there and she's like, Tom, this is a terrible idea. If Natalie wins the veto, she can use it on Ricky, and then they'll both be safe, both of your targets, and then you'll have to vote out Lolo. And Tom is like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh,
but no, Natalie wouldn't do that. She's like, yeah, she would.
Yeah, she would.
There's a lot of like Kandi no nonsense looks in this conversation. Like,
she was through with him.
Tom.
Seriously. Like, I mean, like, you might as well say at this point that Kandi is the HOH. I see the chat has been saying that before too, that Kandi is the HOH. I mean, go fast forward to the end of this conversation, and he's basically telling her, like, I wish I would have just talked to you before, even though they did talk. And, you know, you make all the sense in the world. And, you know, what should I have for breakfast tomorrow? You know, like, I mean, like, no, he didn't really say that. But, I mean, that's basically where it goes at the end. And he does what she suggests. And the best part is Candy's like, you don't owe them jack. You don't need to tell them anything. And Tom being Tom, there is a moment in time where he goes to talk to Natalie. This is what I was talking about before, where he, you know, was going to have one, maybe, or they could have had one more conversation with Tom, and Natalie blows him off. Yeah. Doesn't even take the opportunity to talk. Well, this is where I saw you ranting on Twitter about.
Well, yeah, I mean, so this conversation, it honestly might be my favorite conversation of the season so far, just because it's like the closest thing we've come to Big Brother strategy, where it's like, it's just one person trying to convince another person to do a thing that's in their own best interests.
It's just game. There was nothing personal here whatsoever. It was just game.
And Tom is a difficult person to convince, because he's all in his head about all these different ideas, and he's so set on Ricky. And so you watch the gears turn in Candy's head as she tries different things, and she has to find the pressure points where Tom is like, oh, I didn't think of that. That makes sense to me. I can use that. That works in my own personal narrative of what I'm doing. And then she can press on that. And it's just, it's great to watch. And I liked the fact that, like, finally we have somebody in the house that's actually doing something strategic. I'm like, well, I'm giddy about it.
It's great to see. I'm hoping it spreads to other people.
Well, let's not get our hopes up too high. We'll
All right. Yeah,
we'll stick with Kandi for now.
We'll stick with Kandi for now.
So Natalie, Kandi points out that you have not flipped Lolo. He's like, I think I flipped Lolo. I think this is gonna work. And Kandi is literally like, you see, they're all waiting outside the HOH room right now. Like, they can see on the monitor, they're all together waiting outside the HOH room. They've talked. They probably talked the second they left the room. He's like, but they promised confidentiality. No, Tom.
Dude, they lied to you before. Do you not remember this? It finally starts to come back to him a little bit, where he's like, well, yeah, they did kind of play me before. And Candy's like, they have been really irritating you lately. So why you got to tell them Jack?
Yeah.
You know?
He's like, they're probably telling each other right now on that screen. Yep. And it's like, well, no, it was actually like an hour ago.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So Tom finally and reluctantly agrees, Kandi, you're right. I still want Ricky out, but it should be Ricky and Natalie. And Candy's like, oh, I still feel like it should be Natalie, but I don't want to ruin this right now. So let's put a pin in that for now. I feel like Natalie still should be the person. He's like, I can kind of see that. Okay, maybe. But Natalie and Ricky are the two nominations. Now he just needs to tell Lolo and Natalie that he's changed his mind. He needs to go tell Lolo, like, oh, look, I'm not even going to put you on the block. And he needs to tell Natalie, I'm sorry, I've changed my mind. And Candy's like, well, just don't do it right away, because then they'll know I put you up to it and they're going to blame me. Very astute. Yes.
I love this, that she's self-aware enough to know. And I think it's probably just the fact that she's annoyed that they could just keep like hating on her, but she doesn't want any more hate. So she's like, can you at least like wait a little bit so that I'm not blamed, because like they already hate me and I'm really, really over it. So just like let it be your idea.
Yes. So Tom's like, all right, I'll wait a little bit.
Right. Yep.
Another
diary
thing
room. Please come to the diary room.
Another thing that came out in this conversation is that she was explaining that she no longer feels like she needs to tell people the truth all the time. She learned that because in week 1, what happened was, and this was the first time I heard of it, finally figured out why Kandi went on the block. Apparently, the reason Kandi was nominated by Ryan in week 1 is that Ryan and Jonathan were like, hey, are you going to vote for Jonathan to stay? And she's like, nah, I'm going to vote him out. That's why she went on the block. We finally figured it out.
That. I'm glad she brought this up, because otherwise that would just be like something we totally forgot about. Like we didn't understand why she went on the block. There was a little bit of foreshadowing in the episode about it, like where I think at one point I said she was going to talk herself onto the block, but then she didn't at the time. And so in my head, I'm like, well, maybe that came back to bite her in her ass, and that's why she ended up on the block when he had to name a replacement after Mooch left. But no, this was the reason why.
Yes, and I think it just goes to show that like people learn the game, and I think that Kandi is clearly, she's very intelligent. She came into this game, she wasn't doing super great at the start. She was making some big mistakes. She was not playing a whole lot, but over the course of the game, through watching and listening and paying attention, and now that she has a little bit of power, like she's starting to play the game. She's learned, and she's doing well, and that's all we can really ask for.
Yeah, and for those people out there, I mean, remember, this is a condensed season. I mean, on a regular season where we see other players who sort of learn the game. I mean, Paul in 18 would be at like week 4 at this point. Like, I think he would have just gotten off the block for the second time and is still a really pretty terrible player, and he's in an alliance with Polly Califiore, and they're cutting each other's hair the same. And it's the beginning of what is the semblance of a good player, but it's week 4. But here again, it's week 4. I mean, I know it's 3, but they were in the house for a while before the beats came on. And here you have it. Somebody who is learning the game and is actually playing moderately well.
Yeah, there you go. So Ricky, Natalie, and Lolo, when they're outside the HOH room, they're, of course, still mad. Still talking about how Tom is a terrible person. Ricky says that he'll fall on his sword for the women. That he is all about. He wants to show the world he is not a competitor anymore. He is a healer.
A healer.
Yes, he wants to prop other people up, allow them to succeed. That's what he's all about. He's a coach. He's just like Dan Giesling. And so he's like that. That's what we need to do. They all agree, and this is really, really bad of them. They all agree that if any of them win, they all win. which is basically just saying, take the most hated person and apply that to all of us, because if the jury votes for any of us to win, that most hated person is going to be like, I won too.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, I could see maybe, I don't know, I'm trying to pick somebody. I don't know, like maybe Ryan voting for Lolo at the end because of the Olympian connection. A possibility he might look past everything and vote for her. But then, if he doesn't really like, say, Natalie, and Natalie's in the final two, he's like, I don't really want to vote because I don't want, or maybe Lolo's in the final two. He doesn't want them all to win because now Natalie is going to act like she won. Ricky's going to act like he won. Tom's not going to like that. So,
the Jillian effect,
all around,
where Emmett would not have won because of his association with Jillian. You don't want to really like double down on that and be like, well, if that person wins, I win too, guys. Yeah. Now you want to vote for him, right?
Where they can see everything. It's one thing to think about it, because like on BB1, they just assumed because they were together. Natalie and Jillian and Emmett, they were together, and so like they were like, we don't. If one of them wins, they're both gonna act like they won, and we don't really want that. They both have the stench of each other on them. This one, you kind of assume that, but now they're saying it to each other in the room, and everybody's at home able to watch it, unlike what BB1 was. By the way, I still can't believe that season started with that Topaz vote there at the end. I mean, that whole series started with that finale.
It's really set the stage.
Set the stage. Wow.
I saw your tweet about pointing out Jonathan Bennett he's been liking tweets, but he actually responded to somebody who said, please don't let the women win. I
can't take nasty. The hate. Yeah. And he's like, girl, duh. Yeah. I mean, like, this is a new phenomenon. I don't know that this went on. Maybe I missed the train.
The previous celebs are pretty aloof.
Yeah, and I don't remember anybody directly like campaigning and getting an answer from a previous celeb on the show, but he let him have it. I mean, in his way, he said, girl, duh, as in like he's not going to vote for them, and he would vote for Dina if she was there at the end. So, it's interesting that you can, like, what do they call it on my Twitter? They were like, massaging the jury, that they're trying to get basically the fans are trying to get the jury to do what they want, and I think that's probably going to work.
You never know. It's
definitely... Dude, these celebrities aren't watching the feeds like we are. Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's generally how it works. So it's interesting. Again, this is Celebrity Big Brother. This is sort of how the game is played, and we're getting to see a lot more insight into the jury. Maybe not like a lot more, but more insight into how the jury is thinking. And we've been predicting for a long time that these women are going to have trouble getting votes, and we're definitely seeing that play out with some of these Twitter interactions. So. We also get, again, Ricky is going to tell them, hey, once Tom is gone, we'll be unstoppable. Ricky going after Tom. Natalie's still kind of like, oh, but Kandi. So Tom is going to come up later, right before the nominations, and it's just Ricky and Natalie left up there, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to talk anymore? And they're like, nah, you look stressed, Tom. He's like, I'm kind of stressed. But I'm just letting you know, I'm still undecided. I'm still kind of up in the air. He had just been in the diary room for a half hour after he was very tenuously flipped by Kandi. I think there's a very real chance that he was kind of like, should I go through with this? Should I not go through with this? And he was like, do you guys want to talk? And they're like, nah, we're good.
Well, I think what they were thinking once they heard that he was vacillating is he going to put them up or not? Or maybe he'll put up like, Kandi and Dina or something. Or, and the other thing I thought, the other thing that happened, we forgot to talk about, it's not that big of a deal, but that Ricky wanted Tamar on the block. He said, why don't you put up Tamar and Dina? I'm like, I'm sure Tamar would like to hear that. And Tom did not tell Tamar what I'm hoping it eventually comes out.
Confidentiality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know, right? Oh, my God. Yeah.
So the feeds are finally going to go down for the nominations, and Ricky and Natalie are nominated. Natalie did not have a warning that she was going on the block, and the feeds come back. Natalie, Lolo, and Tamar are pissed in the downstairs bedroom. I posted a clip of this because it was so funny, the visual itself. They're just like, I can't believe Tom. How are we gonna handle this? Meanwhile, you got Tom on the other side in the HOH doing the goofiest dances.
White boy dance.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just like, this is just, the visual here is fantastic.
It was great, and it was happening at the same time. Like, there was no fancy editing. It was just it was literally happening at the same time. By the way, just tangentially related, I tweeted out a couple days ago, retweeted somebody who put the Cato eviction audio up against the Cato stepping down from the witness stand in the O.J. Simpson trial, and it was freaking fabulous. I think it was Earth Dog on Twitter. Like, one of the best edits I've ever seen. Have you seen this, Taryn?
I have not seen it, no.
Yeah, okay. It's literally like Ito looks at him and basically is like, you can step down from the stand, and he walks out, and he has to open that little door as he's walking out of the aisle, and the audio is all like,
Can I open this?
Like Julie Chen's voice is coming out of Ito's mouth, and then as he like opens the little swinging door that's in the aisle, he's like, "Do I open this?" And do it, and you can hear him like clapping as he's like leaving the courtroom, and then like he comes out of the courtroom, and it's Julie Chen, and it's the stage of the studio. It's freaking amazing. So
that's great.
Yes. I'll retweet it again. It was really good stuff.
So Natalie, Lolo, and Tamar, they're discussing. They need Dina's vote in order to get Ricky out over Natalie. Natalie is saying that if she needs to win the veto, but then she's like, but if I use the veto, you'll go up, so I won't use the veto. We just need another vote. We need to get Dina. Dina is the key. We need Dina, then I can stay. And so that's what they're feeling. Tamar is going to leave eventually, and it's going to be Natalie and Lolo. And Natalie's like, what we really need is for you to win the veto, Lolo, and you can use it on me, and then Tamar will go on the block, and then we can vote Tamar out.
They are scamming Tamar. They are scamming her because she's saying, well, if you win the veto, you're not going to use it, right? Tamar's like, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use it because then you'd go up. She asks Lolo. She asks Lolo, would you use the veto if you want it? And she's like, oh, probably not. Yeah. And like, definitely leaving yourself an out, because she knows that if she wins the veto, gosh damn, she's going to use it. And Tamar's going to be pissed. And just so we know, if Tamar goes on the block, like, there's no way. I still don't think there's any way she's getting voted out. The other thing I want to tell you guys is that Tamar wants Natalie gone. If it's Natalie and Ricky on the block, they don't even need Tom's tiebreaker vote. They can send Natalie home, because Tamar wants to evict, as far as I saw in that conversation with Kandi, she wants to evict, I'm assuming she was telling her the truth, she wants to evict Natalie over Ricky. So I'm not sure if that's going to hold to the end here, but I think it's probably pretty likely.
Yeah, there's still a lot left up in the air, because Tamar said she wanted Natalie gone when she was with Kandi. She says all sorts of different things to the Zen Angry cult, and so it's hard to I haven't
heard that before today.
It's hard to know where she'll land there, and on top of that, you've got the veto situation, and again, I feel personally like Tom's best case is if Lolo wins the veto, uses it on Natalie, Tamar goes up, and then we have that 2-2 split that I talked about. Tamar realizes that these women are against her. They're trying to keep Ricky. He can vote to save her. He gets Ricky out. He leaves the two women in the house. Then it's kind of like those two women versus the other two women, and he's maybe a little bit out of the spotlight, just slightly. And he got Ricky, the person who wants him out the most, and I guarantee you Natalie will be like, but Candy's a bigger threat than Tom, potentially, because Natalie doesn't think Tom can win in the end. So I think that's his best case, but of course he's not going to be trying to get that to happen.
A lot of that happening. A lot of people just dumb lucking themselves into a position if this goes the way we want it to go, it won't be by any of their design. It will just be by happenstance.
Yes. So we're going to get Lolo and Natalie trying to flip Dina. They have a lengthy conversation with her about hey, Tom is what are the insults here? We got
he's the devil. He's a greasy dirtbag. I can't remember which all came with who came with who. He's an old man.
Yeah. Male chauvinist pig.
Oh yeah, there's that one. That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. All of these terrible things, and he used her dreams against her to manipulate her. He's such a bad person.
Yes, and by the way, the diary room apparently told Natalie, Eva Marie, and Lolo not to say male chauvinist pig anymore. Like they're like, it's so funny. They are. I'm telling you guys the truth here. If you guys do not watch the feeds, you do not know how it is. They are trying to protect them from themselves. Every time they start looking like an ass, they cut the feeds. Like every time they start going off.
Case in point, about 10 minutes ago or so, Tom and Lolo in the morning, Lolo says, I'm frustrated with you. Tom says, let's talk.
And she didn't go on the block. Y'all remember that. She's frustrated with him, and he decided not to put her on the block. Okay, go ahead.
Lolo says, I'm just so cut. They cut away. Yep. We don't want this on the feeds.
Yep. I think they have like a 7-second delay now with Lolo and Natalie. It's like the Oscars, like beep, no beep.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? This is like, I'm sure Rob would remember this. There was an old show called Blackout. It was a game show where like you would try to guess a word and you'd have like a blackout thing, and you could like press the plunger to like black out the audio of the contestant, and then they would have to like guess the puzzle based on like what information they heard and whatever you blacked out they didn't get to hear. That's what they need with Lolo. They just that's what I feel like is going on, where they're just like there's somebody in the control room just going like this.
Yes.
Oh god.
So they're saying all this to Dina to try to get Dina to turn on Tom and realize how terrible a person he is. Dina, of course, being Dina, as we talked about, is like, oh wow, yeah, no, totally. Wow, that's really bad.
Yeah, if you only saw this conversation, you would think that Dina has turned. No, she's lying through her teeth.
Dina is so good that she convinces the audience every day that she's flipped when she never has.
Yeah, she's never flipped. I'm not gonna like. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Like I'm not buying her anymore. She's not flipping. She does not like these girls. She wants one of them out.
Yes. So she's all about it. She's gonna later go to Kandi and be like, hey, look, this is what they all told me. They're trying to get me to flip.
Yeah. They betrayed Jonathan.
Yeah,
I swear that is what's driving this. I swear. Okay,
she does say that she is concerned about Tom. She feels like he could win this game. She's a little bit concerned there, which confirms to me that Dina would take Kandi. I think that Tom would probably take Kandi. I'm really starting to like Candy's chances here. So.
I think that what I want to say. I'm worried about. I never know what I was going to say. I'm worried that Tom may become like the James Maslow, where like the whole house unites to get him out because they just kind of have to. Like if they all worry that he could win. Of course, Natalie doesn't think he can win at the end, so there's that. But I think that even his allies at this point are recognizing. Like Dina said it, and I feel like Kandi was agreeing with her to an extent. But Tom, we probably need to get him out eventually. Like it's not somebody that they really want to go to the end with. I don't feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kandi should go to the end with him. I think he would not only take her, but I think she would beat him. So I think Kandi should want Tom in as long as possible. But
Kandi can beat anybody except for Dina, and we're not even sure about that one. I still think she beats Dina.
Here's the thing. Dina has Jonathan because of their prior relationship. So I think with Jonathan would probably also come Joey and Ryan, and Kato would probably go Dina. Tom,
but we can. But here's the thing: but Twitter can campaign for her if if it gets to the end. And I feel like having like the first Black female winner would be a big deal for Big Brother, and the fans would really get behind it, and they would remind Joey and Ryan and maybe Jonathan too, and Kato, whoever the hell, that this is a possibility, and wouldn't that be great to finally have happen? I'd like to think the women and Ricky would go Kandi.
They don't like Dina very much.
Like
they also don't like Kandi,
like
but
Dina,
they don't like Dina. Yeah. So I think it would be a very close vote. I think it could be like 5-4 going either way. So watch out for it just in case it happens. So Tom is also going to talk with Kandi about how he just wants to win all the competitions from this point on. Let's just win all of them.
And he thinks he can.
Yeah.
He's convinced at this point that he was like, I think, I thought I could win maybe half when I was coming into the season, and now he's convinced he can just comp out from here.
And this is, again, like this happens all the time, and it's very interesting to watch Tom verbalize it because Tom is saying, now that I won this competition, I feel like I could maybe win all of them, maybe 80%, No, probably all of them. And it's like he's voicing it like he's explaining his feelings. Whereas usually when this thing occurs, somebody wins a competition and they just like, we need to win the next one. They just talk about like, we're going to win them all. But they don't like describe their feelings. They just feel this way because there's a sense of confidence that you get when you win a competition that you feel like I can just win them all. Yeah. But Tom just describes it differently. It's very funny. So Dina and Kandi, like I said, they were talking about Natalie and Lolo. They were talking about Tom. They also talk about how they don't really want to win the veto. No point. They don't really feel like it's necessary.
Smart. Again, don't show your cards to anybody. You don't want people mad at you for not using the veto. If you could have saved them, there's no point to winning the veto. So neither Dina nor Kandi are going to be gunning for that veto.
Yes, except Dina then did tell Tom that Kandi said that, and Tom was like, hey, Kandi, you're going to win the veto, right?
Yeah, don't worry. I was just telling her that. Yeah.
Dina also lets Kandi know, like, hey, watch out for Tamar. She was super pissed at you this morning. Because Tamar went on that whole rant about her to Dina in particular. She got the brunt of it there. We also get another conversation with Natalie and Tamar where they're complaining about Kandi even more. Tamar says she's so selfish. She's such a bad person. I'm embarrassed for her. So on and so forth. And Tom, when he's talking to Dina, also mentions he still wants Ricky out. He has not been flipped to wanting Natalie out. So basically, what we're looking at here, we're going to play the veto today, I imagine. And if Lolo wins the veto, she's going to take Natalie down. Tamar's going to go up. Ricky's going to go. If Ricky wins the veto, we're not entirely sure. There's definitely a possibility that he doesn't use it or that he uses it on Natalie. But if he takes himself off, then Lolo will go up, Natalie will leave. If nobody wins the veto that's going to use it, then both Ricky and Natalie will stay on the block. Tom wants Ricky gone. Kandi wants Natalie gone. Kandi theoretically might have the votes to get Natalie to go without Tom's approval. Will she do it without Tom's approval is one question. Does she have the votes is another question. If Tamar is actually going to vote Natalie out, because Tamar, like I said, was talking to Natalie and Lolo about how she definitely would vote to keep Natalie. So there's a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of different things floating around in the air right now. Ricky or Natalie are almost definitely going to be leaving. There's very little chance that anybody besides one of the two of them leaves, but I could not tell you who it's going to be at this point.
I'm going to say Natalie, and that's not good for Tom because we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I mean, if Kandi continues doing as well as she's doing, she will make sure it's vital for Kandi that Natalie leaves this week. It's huge for her. If Natalie doesn't leave this week, her chances are looking a lot worse. So if she recognizes that and she continues to be as effective as she was yesterday, then I expect we'll see Natalie leave. But
I really want the prospect of Ricky and Natalie staying on the block, and I want Ricky to be like begging to go home and them not send him home. And I feel like that we could be, based on how he was acting yesterday and talking about falling on his sword, he doesn't want to be seen as a competitor. He wants to be a healer. Not that I want to see it, but I feel like we are close-ish to a quit. It felt very quitter-ish to me. Like, I don't want you girls to go home because of me, because if you win, I feel like I win. So I don't want to see that happen, but on the other hand, I'm kind of curious to see what would happen if he's on the block and he's begging to go home and they don't want to send him home.
My read on Ricky is that he has always had this weird thing with Tom. They've both had it with each other. They don't really like each other. I think it's kind of like a little bit of like this like puffing your chest kind of alpha thing where it's like hey, no, I'm the better man. And so I think right now Ricky feels like he's been checkmated by Tom, that Tom is going to get him out. And he would rather take his own narrative into his own hands and be like, no, I'm bowing out. Tom, you didn't get me out. I'm bowing out for the women because I'm the real man here. However, if Ricky sees that he might stay, I think he might start to be like, "Ooh, wait a minute."
Well, that's a horse of a different color.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
All right.
All right.
Long
That's what we
updates.
got for you. Yes.
The chat was talking about a long update. I'm like, well, it's partly me because I go on and I talk a lot. That's just how I go. I got things to say, people. I'm not on very often.
Yeah,
at least in the morning.
When Brent is on an update, you know it's going to be longer, and this one was going to be long regardless.
It's going to be long regardless. Yeah. Yes, exactly. No one was booked today. I was like, Taryn, you need somebody? I don't see anybody on the schedule because that's what Taryn said. He's like, if you see a place where you want to put yourself in, just put yourself in. I'm like, oh, well, here we go. Because I was up all night watching the feeds and last night, and so here we are.
Yes. There will be a roundtable tonight. So
there we go.
Yes.
Oh, I should get some sleep then.
Yeah. I will be releasing the forum for you guys as soon as this podcast is over. I got some suggestions for bonus questions, so you can make sure you fill it out. There's some fun questions in there.
I want to see if our well, of course, Kandi's probably going to hurt this endeavor, but I want to see if our average can be even lower than what it was last week. Rob with the shade on his show where he was like, the scores of the HOH competition were like 3, 4, 3, 3, 3, 4. He's like, I thought it was like the LFC stock watch, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Rob. Well done.
Should be a good one. We've got some losses to track as well, so that'll be fun to
yes,
to watch.
Rob and Melissa are shorting stocks apparently. They've lost so much money in their portfolio.
Yes. So
very fun.
Plenty to talk about, plenty to do with all the stock watch stuff. Make sure you tune in tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and make sure you fill out the form. You can find it on Twitter at Armstrong Taryn. I will be tweeting it out soon. You can find Brent at OneLuckyGay, and yeah, that's what we got for you. So see you next time.